Go ahead, tell us who you are.
I'm Mick Kelly. I'm a spokesperson for the Minnesota Coalition for a People's Bailout. And the Minnesota Coalition for a People's Bailout is it's a broad coalition of organizations that have come together to fight the effects of the economic crisis in the United States, and Minnesota specifically. So we include trade unions, we include welfare rights organizations, community groups, immigrant right coalitions, you know, whatever. A big spectrum of people with a lot of different concerns, but what really unites us is that the wealthy are doing okay in this economic crisis. In fact, they're getting bailed out by government. And we're coming together to say the people got to come first, and we're building a fight around that.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your perspectives, not only on the banks and how they're behaving and how you just said, you know, that we need to come together, but also your perspectives on how this is impacting this community, this nation, the world.
Well, I mean, capitalism is in crisis. The Wall Street Journal says that, the New York Times says that, and we're experiencing that on a day-to-day level. And we can see it with rising unemployment. In a lot of areas, it's well above 10%. Those that want to work, you know, unemployment rate is above 16%. There's a foreclosure crisis going on in the communities where quite literally millions are in the foreclosure process. So people are experiencing this in all sorts of ways. And many want to do something about it. And that's really the interesting story that's happening here. Rosemary Williams is a woman who's stand up and spoken out. I met Rosemary first, I remember the date, January 7th. She came to a rally that we had at the Minnesota State Capitol, where we were introducing legislation for a people's bailout. And in that legislation, there was a moratorium on foreclosures and evictions from foreclosed homes, buildings. And Rosemary was there speaking out, and whatever. It was a voice that literally represents tens of thousands within the state and millions across this country. And so on one hand, we have how people are experiencing this, which is terrible. In fact, it's a disaster for our communities. On the other hand, we have literally shoots of hope. Hope of people standing up, people resisting, and it's broader than Rosemary Williams. For example, Republic workers in Chicago. They took over their factory, they said, no, we want to get some justice here. And the eyes of the world were riveted upon them. Likewise, more eyes are focusing here, a light's being shined here, and it's a light of resistance.
Right. So tell us the aim of your organization and how it helps people.
The aim of our organization is to fight. One word, it's to fight. And we feel that, in fact, a war is being waged on poor and working people in this country. And it would be a big mistake for this war to be one-sided. In other words, our communities, our unions, we have to mobilize and do something about it. We can't really rely on politicians to address our needs. And just to give an example, we pushed hard for a moratorium on foreclosures and evictions from foreclosed homes this last session of the legislature. We took it to committee, and immediately you have people like Senator Metzen, who's a Democrat, by the way, working hard to bottle the thing up, working hard to make sure it doesn't pass. And why? Because he's a banker, and he's a tool of the banking interests. And there's a conflict, a fundamental conflict, an irrepressible conflict that's going on here in this country. And we've come together to help pull the thing forward. Our interests aren't going to be represented unless we do it ourselves.
Okay, so in your experience here with Rosemary, how long have you been involved in this particular sit-in and the eviction and the process that's been going on?
Well, we've been involved for a long time. I mean, Rosemary's been up at the Capitol testifying and getting out the word about what needs to be done, i.e. a moratorium on foreclosures. But in terms of the round-the-clock sit-in, which is now entering its 11th day, I believe, I got here about 20 minutes after the sheriff arrived. I got a call, and sheriffs were trooping around the yard, quite literally shooing the little children out of here. Yeah, I mean, it was a heartbreaking situation.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, this home was reopened.
Right.
And its rightful owner has been restored to this home. And 24 hours a day, people have been here. There's been a sit-in. People have been here speaking out. And what we've done is we've changed kind of the political terrain of this. Or in other words, you can see that we're here in this room doing this interview.
Right.
We were concerned constantly that the police were going to be here at any minute. Now that still could happen. But the fact that they aren't here, and the fact I'm speaking to you, and by extension by anyone who's viewing this, is because so many in the community, neighbors, friends, organizations, have come together and said, here is a place where this comes to an end. There's a crisis that's tearing up our communities. Someone's saying no, and we need to rally around this person. Literally, and it's an example for millions. I have been talking to people around the country, and I think many are inspired by what's taking place here, and hopefully others will take the path of Rosemary Williams.
So what advice do you have to other people in this crisis? How do they contact you if they need help? What else can they do if they need help as well?
Well, I would say to anyone who's in trouble, who's out of work, who's losing their homes, who's facing cutbacks from a service that they need, is that they need to come together with others who are concerned. We can't wait for somebody to lead us out of this. We have to take things in our own hands. Now, if you're in Minnesota and you're in Minneapolis, you should contact the Minnesota Coalition for Peoples Bailout. We have a website by the same name, easy to find in a search. And we need to come together. And there's really so much that we can do. I realize every day that people are bombarded by the message, you can't fight City Hall. The fact that we're still sitting here today is an indicator we can fight City Hall. And we can accomplish something. And how far we go depends largely on how many are willing to take this path. And the more people who take this path, the more successes we will have.
Do you have any just random things you want to talk about? Any advice you'd like to give for anybody? Maybe any charges you want to make against anyone?
The rulers of this country are criminal.
Yeah.
There's just no other way to put it. Quite literally, millions are being plunged into poverty. Folk are being cut off public assistance. In state after state, the number who are being cut off the unemployment rolls is growing exponentially. And this is an indictment, really, of the way that things are. Now, the head of Wells Fargo, for example, just got a wage increase. He's now going to get $6.3 million a year. And what he's getting that money for is sucking the blood out of our communities, the lifeblood out of our communities. And my advice to anyone is to find like-minded people who want to do something. Find an organization, a union, a community group, and if there isn't one that you can find, start your own. And together we can do great things.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.